Hey everyone, welcome to this new moon Sidereal astrology forecast for the new moon on Tuesday and Wednesday, June 28th and 29th of 2022. All right, so we have a new moon in Sidereal Gemini. If you're expecting me to say Cancer just then, be sure to check out the link down below for more information. We are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. But yeah, new moon, time of new beginnings, a reset, an ending of the previous lunar month, and a beginning of the new one here. Now, Gemini is all about getting in touch with our more practical and synergistic side, the side that's willing to exchange, to learn, to be interested, basically have more flexibility in our life through curiosity, through learning, and through willing to exchange with others. So any intentions around that is fantastic with this new moon. Now, there's one major aspect to it, just one, and it is a square up to Jupiter. So Jupiter is very different from Gemini. It rules the opposite sign of Sag, which is more about possibilities, abstract realm, free-spirited energy. So in a square, this can perhaps create a bit of a pendulum swing with some of this. And so if we are feeling either over or under optimistic, over or under exuberant, it is good to channel this constructively. And squares to Jupiter can be very constructive times of really building towards opportunities in a way that it's about recognizing that, even opportunities and doors opening take time, take patience, take a bit of that work, and in this way it becomes extremely constructive. All right, so we have that, and of course we'll take a look at the rulers as well to get more detailed with this. So let's go and take a look at all this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the chart here for the new moon. So the exact time of the new moon will be around 2300 Eastern time of the Americas. We are using topocentric here to calculate the new moon, which is using the actual visible sky. But depending on your time zone and also depending on where you are in the Earth, the time will change. But for all intents and purposes, we are having the new moon late Tuesday and early Wednesday here. And we usually feel the energy usually at least a few days before, a few days after. All right, so new moon in Gemini, the Twins, the constellation that is about the side of ourself that sees life as an opportunity to exchange with others, to be curious, to be interested, and I would say fundamentally to synergize. So synergizing can be certainly in the external environment through exchanging, through learning, through being curious, but also internally as well. It's a great time of learning, synergizing with the mind, being curious and maybe reading, gaining information, gaining knowledge, right? And this kind of stuff. And as a result, Gemini is actually very practical sign. So it's about usually information, knowledge, and learning things that are more practical in nature. How can it actually be applied, verified, very left brain type of stuff here that we're talking about. So Gemini the Twins now getting more in touch with this side of ourselves. Now, as we do approach the new moon, it is the ending of the previous lunar cycle. So it is good to close things out and things finalize, create some space. Even all week, we're still in the low energy of the larger cycle. It's still going to be just getting started. So it's good around that Tuesday, Wednesday to just listen, see what new emerges, and slowly build momentum. Once we get to about this time next week, it'll be more action oriented, right? We'll really be challenging ourselves to build it. So it's great to now get attuned to, right? So yin time to get attuned to and to connect to that Gemini side of ourselves, the side that's curious, the side that's interested, the side that wants to exchange, the side that wants to be more flexible, right? Because when we are willing to learn, be curious, it creates more flexibility in our life, willingness to exchange with others, connect with others in a way that's seeing eye to eye with them. It's the twins, so it also rules, all situations where we have peers or siblings or people of equal status that we can learn from and exchange with. So great to set any intentions around this kind of stuff now. And we'll likely notice a lot getting developed this lunar month around that practical and curious side of ourselves. Now, there's only one main aspect with this new moon, and it is a square up to Jupiter. It's quite a close one, in fact. And so it is going to likely be quite strong. Now, Jupiter, again, is the ruler of Sag, which is the opposite sign to Gemini. And so while this is a time of developing very practical left brain side of ourselves, the side that rules communication and more of the practical knowledge, Jupiter is really the right brain, the more abstract, especially in Pisces like this. So the abstract side of things, might have a bit of that pendulum swing. The squares do tend towards the over and under extremes of the planet. And since Jupiter does rule opportunities, does rule free-spiritedness, does rule the abstract, this side of things might be a bit over or under extreme there, just generally as a default, collectively speaking. But individually, it's great to channel it constructively. If you are feeling any over or under exuberance, over and under optimism, right? Optimism and also pessimism, usually when the pendulum swings really far one direction, then we'll swing the other as just life's way of naturally balancing things out. So of course, the remedy to that would be to walk a middle path. What are constructive ways of being inspired? What are opportunities we can actually work on constructively, so we're not just hopeful about them or dreaming about them, we're actually implementing them, and also recognizing that they take time. Even opportunities and things we're hopeful about, even though it feels easy, even though it feels inspiring, we're optimistic about it, bring in a bit of that Saturn energy, the more kind of grounding energy, the realistic energy. Saturn is the counterbalance to Jupiter. It's also the square energy. Squares are like Saturn. It's about working on it, building it. So how can we build towards anything that we could be optimistic about or hopeful about, or any opportunities or lack thereof, by actually taking action and working towards inspirations can bring us out of, times of pessimism or apathy or whatever it might be, if on the under extreme of this kind of energy. So it can be a very opportunistic new moon towards building it. It will take the action, it will take the patience and perseverance with the square, but certainly opportunities are rising out of this new moon. You can, of course, check to see where you have Pisces in your own natal chart. You can always check the chart calculator on my website, masteringthezodiac.com. Type in your birth details, and wherever you have the middle of Pisces is where that Jupiter is. And of course, where the new moon will be is where you have Gemini. All right, so you can see which two areas these are activating. And these are two very different areas, right? Because that's what the square represents. That it's a clash, it's different, it requires action because they are different. And so Gemini is again about more of the practical life, and Pisces, where Jupiter is definitely the more abstract. Pisces is the spiritual. And so the challenge here collectively is, how can we start this new beginning in the practical world while also building and being connected to our soul and our hopes and wishes and things more important to us on a soul level, and doing things in our life that are still about taking a step back, having some rest, some peace, right? So practical, spiritual, mental, unconscious, merging these two together, right? The mind and the soul. Challenge, but how can we integrate these two together? And when these are integrated together, when we are going about our practical life and learning, yet also being willing to go with the flow, right? Also still connected to our intuition and our soul, makes a great way of working with this. And these being mutable signs, it's all about creating more flexibility. And the flexibility of being curious is great with Gemini, but also the flexibility of being willing to, be attuned to the now moment, go with the flow, be more receptive, to listen, right? This can also create more flexibility. So definitely some great things to challenge ourselves with and develop, and we'll likely notice that are in development throughout this lunar month. All right, so we can always look at the ruler of Gemini, which is Mercury, and we can see how we're how we're learning, how we're communicating at this new moon, during this new moon. It's going to be in a more grounded way. Mercury has already been in Taurus. This is actually where Mercury went retrograde, so it's been over a month here, well over a month here. And our minds are more in the steady realms. So when it is about learning, when it is about being interested, recognizing that Mercury in Taurus is really about taking things one step at a time, stopping to smell the roses, right? And before moving from one bit of knowledge and information, making sure that the previous thing or information is solidly set. Because Gemini is quite high frequency, Mercury is high frequency, so it's a little bit uncomfortable place for Mercury to be in, because Gemini and Mercury are all about learning one thing to the next, light on our toes, jack of all trades. But when it's in Taurus, it slows it all down, and it's important to take one step at a time with the learning versus the rushing it forward or things like that. So something good to take away from this lunar cycle, at least while Mercury finishes this transit, which will be for the rest of this week and even into next week a bit, taking things a bit slowly and steadily when it comes to the mind, when it comes to the communication, right? And maybe even learning about things that are more Taurus related, like nature, earth, resources, finances, natural things, food, cooking, things that essentially are about cultivating our inner and outer resources in life. Can be a great way of working with this new moon as well. All right, and so that's the new moon. Put simply, very simple, very straightforward. We have a new moon in the practical Gemini, which is about creating more flexibility in our life through learning, through being interested and curious, doing that in a slow and steady and grounded way with Mercury, at least at the moment, in Taurus. And the square to Jupiter is the natural over-under extremes right now with the right brain, with the opportunities, inspirations, hopes, whatever it might be. And so actually working on these things, building towards them through time, patience, long-term energy can be a great way and make it a very constructive new moon for really turning opportunities into realities. All right, so everyone have a fantastic new moon. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, it is a free newsletter where you do get these videos released first before YouTube. There's a link down below to sign up for that if you're on YouTube. But have a great new moon, everyone. Thank you again for all of your support, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.